So the idea behind this whole notion of Silk Road connectivity and the Indo-Southeast Asian or Indo-Pacific corridor are simple ones. The idea is if you increase cross-border cooperation and collaboration and trade, Central, South, and Southeast Asia can once again be a hub for or a transit area for global commerce between themselves and from Europe to the rest of Asia. While trade among these countries of South Asia and Central Asia, remains far below its potential, last year they were only 15% of the region's GDP. The countries of the region are actually making progress toward establishing a more integrated regional market.
The next problem, I think, and this is my third point, is just the problem of silos in government. The report suggests that one of the challenges up to the late 1990s was relatively little attention was paid to South Asia. One of the good things in recent years is quite a lot of attention has been paid to South Asia. But the challenge of greater attention means that there's a risk of siloed policy communities, people dealing, for example, with the strategic relationship with India, but perhaps not being as thoughtful about some of the China policy elements. People dealing with Afghanistan, but perhaps being not so thoughtful about the counterterrorism elements, and so on and so forth. So the challenge of integrated policy in that framework can be difficult. The fourth point I want to make, and I think this is absolutely critical in terms of the argument that Suzanne introduced at the beginning, is that I think there is a real opportunity for the second-term Obama administration to think strategically about the range of different interests it has in South Asia and beyond. And I would argue there were two previous opportunities to do this. One was in the late 1940s, 47 to 49, before the Cold War intruded and created an imprisoned framework around which South Asia policy had to be done. The second opportunity perhaps came at the end of the Cold War during the first George H.W. Bush administration. But ironically, even then, other policy priorities dominated. So you had basically concerns about the Iran-Iraq war, the Soviet Union that quickly turned into the former Soviet Union, and basically other immediate priorities crowding out the ability to think in a long-term manner about South Asia.
The problem with Pakistan has been that the United States has had a reluctant ally since Pakistan's independence, soon after Pakistan's independence. Way back in 1948, if you read the newspaper of record, which I'm doing these days for my next book, which hopefully everybody here will buy and preferably in hardback.
We already have a book. We already have a book event with Husain scheduled. He hasn't written it yet, but it's already scheduled.
But in the course of that study, I found that it goes back. There's this so-called anti-Americanism that everybody goes back all the way to 1948 in Pakistan. Pakistan was a reluctant ally. It needed assistance, and therefore it was forced into becoming an ally. And alliance has led to dependence, and because of that, there is defiance. So a realistic policy towards Pakistan would basically be an acceptance of ground realities, what we can or cannot hope from Pakistan. What are Pakistan's priorities? If Pakistan doesn't want America to play a certain role in Pakistan, maybe it's time for the United States also to not try and say, but how can we help you if they don't want it?
I like to think of the starting point being the United States looking at the whole world and our responsibilities and managing our future with Asia, which has been such a singular achievement of the present administration, must start with how we see the emergence of Chinese power. Now, India is not derivative of China in our policy, but maintaining a balance of power has got to be the right way of pursuing American interests in Asia. And India is a critical element. I've believed that since the 1990s. When I was first given responsibility, I believe it today. Now, what does that mean? It means a number of things. It also has important implications for Pakistan. It does not mean one side or the other, or hyphenation, or the other words that we've chosen wisely to avoid. It means a sustained engagement with India at a strategic and an economic level. And that is really an evolutionary change in our policy that has occurred since Clinton first visited, Bush strengthened, the Obama administration in 2010 has deepened. But I think we are all wise enough now to recognize that India will set her own pace in the relationship with us. And it will not move in the same direction nor at the same speed that we wish it to move. It will choose its own direction. It has its own hurdles to overcome, its own psychology to reinforce, its own capabilities, diplomatic and military, to rebuild and strengthen before it will be a global and even a significant regional power.
A lot of what is happening in the India-US relationship today is the result of many, many individuals and corporations and entities that had nothing to do with the Indian government. The US-Pakistan relationship, on the other hand, is totally a government-to-government relationship, a military-to-military relationship, and an intelligence-to-intelligence service relationship. And that should actually teach us a thing or two about how nations can or cannot come close to each other.